Hello friends, James Stevenson here with a special report. It's a command performance for Loki and for me. You can see Loki right here in the Loki's bedcam. You can keep an eye on him while I share my desktop. He'll be over here. I'll be looking at this request from Sergi Salas at Masterplan 2018. It'd be helpful to some investors to get some perspective and analysis about that claim about Tesla accounting. I don't know anyone better than you to explain it. What in the heck could Sergi be talking about? Perhaps you have guessed. It was this March 19th post from electrek.co. Tesla, hashtag Tesla. They did everything but put the hashtag in front of it. Accounting raises red flags as report shows $1.4 billion missing. Here's the link to the article by Frederic Lambert. Fred Lambert here, who is a longtime contributor to Electrek. It'll irritate him if he watches this video that I called him a contributor instead of senior editor or whatever his job title is. I replied, well, we'll come back to that. I replied on the date that he posted this as soon as I read the article. Headline should be, Fred Lambert raises red flags about his understanding of accounting because the article got the accounting wrong. Now I'll scroll back up and show you the community note. Readers added context they thought people might want to know. Financial Times has released a correction to the original article on which this Electrek article is based. It was just a repost from Fred of original content written by Dan McCarney or something from the Financial Times of London. One unavoidable conclusion is that at a certain point it's necessary to trust the auditor's judgment. Well, you can't know everything about a company by reading their financial statements, but you also can't say there's $1.4 billion missing because some dumb rule of thumb you came up with that never works didn't work this quarter by more than usual. That's the summary of the article. If you want to know what happened, these guys tried. I'm going to lose half my audience if I talk accounting. They tried this rule of thumb that says, hey, however much you spend on capital assets during the quarter, that's how much your balance sheet account for plant, property, and equipment should go up. Some people say property, plant, and equipment. Some people say plant, property, and equipment. Both are correct. By the way, same three words. As long as you say equipment last, you got it right. So the red flag was added by Fred Lambert. They didn't characterize it that way in the article that I recall. So knowing that most people would not click to read his article or the Financial Times article, Fred made this thumbnail image with a red box around it and a red arrow labeled red flag. Well, Fred was wrong. I replied to Sergi. Well, Sergi said, well, maybe Loki could do it better. But we all know he is so busy eating and resting. He's resting right now. And I will still ask for his assistance as always. Loki, do you have anything to say at this point in the video? He says I've got it covered. All right, so we'll go back up here and we'll see how did Fred Lambert reply to me. Let's take a look. This way, he said, this is literally a report from Financial Times. And then he called me a name that you can read on your screen if you'd like. Keep attacking the messenger rather than the message. So this is his his lecture about name calling. Don't go after me. Don't call me names. And then he follows that up with more name calling. That's what intellectually lazy people do. Calling me the intellectually lazy one in this scenario. And I replied, why doesn't my janky rule of thumb napkin math always work? Confused unga bunga. I had this meme laying around already. I drop it on Ooga Booga Taylor Ogan sometimes when he doesn't understand why things don't work the way he would like for them to work. I got a reply here from Vincent, at Vincent 13031925. This is Vincent Yu, longtime Tesla supporter, a member of the Third Row from the Third Row podcast years ago. Calling others names is pathetic, is what Vincent said. If Fred would have thought about what this chart actually means, I replied, for 5 seconds, instead of leaping to amplify Tesla FUD someone else published behind a paywall, he might have realized it illustrates a rule of thumb that never works. Only the sign and magnitude of the variance changes. All of these bars mean that every time they've tried this rule of thumb, it didn't work. Why? Because lots of stuff can change the ending balance of PP&E, not just the capital that you purchased that quarter. Yeah, most of the time, your PP&E balance is going to go up if you did a lot of spending on CapEx, capital expenditures, during that quarter. But what if you were retooling your lines for Model Y? What if you have 4 factories globally that make that vehicle? What if that vehicle's sales are a very large fraction of your overall sales, and you knew that you were going to have to refresh the Model Y with different equipment, which obsoletes a lot of the equipment that was on those lines already and had previously been scheduled to be depreciated over a long period of time? The proper accounting treatment is accelerated depreciation. Accelerated depreciation means you have to write down more of the value of those assets the closer you get to their retirement date, which happened earlier this year, right? So what was happening in Q4? Tesla's finance department, rightly, was recording more depreciation expense than usual, which resulted in the value of the assets being lower than they would otherwise have been. That's just one example of something that could happen that would cause the ending balance of PP&E to not move by as much during the quarter as the capital expenditures during that quarter. Another one is if you have, 50,000 NVIDIA chips that you're using to train a neural net to drive cars on their own. That's not a typical kind of depreciation schedule like you might see for regular factory equipment. Maybe it won't last you as long. Maybe you're writing it down over a short period of time, like 3 years, but it's still considered CapEx. Well, that would still go as plant, property, and equipment, or maybe it goes into a different asset line item on the balance sheet. These are all the kinds of what-ifs that should have prevented the article from being written in the first place, because the dumb rule of thumb they're using doesn't always work. Let's see. Fred was wrong again. Yeah, there's from March 25th, 6 days later, Sawyer Merritt said the Financial Times has issued an apology after suggesting Tesla had shady accounting with $1.4 billion missing. In reality, the Financial Times just didn't understand the accounting. And an expert in accounting reached out to them to explain the accounting to them. And there's that quote that we saw in the community note. So there you go. I think I did a good enough job explaining it without delving too deeply into accounting. And is there anything else here that I wanted to show you? Maybe not. That's it. So that's my video for this week, unless Loki has anything else to add. Loki, you good? All right. With that, I will remind you to like the video if you haven't liked the video already. That will help others like you who might also like the video to like the video, helping the algorithm recommend it to even more people like you who might like the video, etc. Thank you to everybody who supports me, especially my executive producers, Kathy Kitchler and Rebellionaire.com, and I'll see you in the next one.